Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. This is part 3 of our Extra Life 2019 Twitch recap thing. Actually, this chronologically takes place right in the middle of our station construction stuff that we had going on, but I felt like keeping all the like things together made just for better episodes, I suppose. Anyway, this is our Callisto Lander, currently in a rather eccentric orbit of Jupiter, and we are setting up to make our flyby of Io, which will bring down our apoapsis. In hopes of making our propulsive capture around Callisto a whole lot cheaper, of course. We are many, many flybys to go. I think this one has made two flybys, one flyby of Callisto and one flyby of Io. So we've got a lot of gravity assist yet to go before this thing is ready to start making its corrective maneuvers to put it on course to actually capture at Callisto and then hopefully make a run for a landing. This mission is several years on, so it's uh, an exercise in patience, really, to gravity assist yourself into where the target needs to be. Yeah, but it does save you a whole lot of delta V. You can see we do have about 3 kilometers per second left in our primary tank, and that's on top of about 2.4 kilometers per second in the lander itself. So we're just making the final touch-ups on our approach to Io. We're going to try to bring it in good and close. We do plan on making a burn at our Io periapsis. Take advantage of a little bit of that Oberth effect and hopefully give us a little bonus free gravitational assist points, something like that. So we'll dial things in nice and low, and we'll get our flight computer set up and queued with lots of radio ins so that we can maybe scrape some science and get a little bit extra payout from this little flyby. We are going to take a little bit of a reading here and see exactly how much corrective gravity assisting Io is going to provide to us, and it is not insignificant, even in the slightest, even without a propulsive correction. Although just spending a little bit of delta V here does have a profound effect on our telemetry on the outward side. But we are trying to look to the future to see how we can start setting this up for Callisto rendezvous and eventual orbital insertion. So we'll start to time warp on in before we get our flight computer stuff set up. Sorry for the wiggliness. I forgot to unselect Callisto as our focused view, but we are about to make our approach now, so we'll start to queue up flight computer with all the radio ins. It's unlikely we'll hit a new and interesting biome, probably one we've flown past many times before at this juncture, but it never hurts to try. You never know if you're actually going to get something you haven't before. We don't have science alert or anything like that installed, and a radio in command would take 45 minutes to an hour to get out to the spacecraft itself. So, luckily, with remote tech and flight computer, we can queue up all of these things in advance. And just in case we do fly over a new and interesting biome, we can, in fact, hopefully get some good science from it. Every little point helps. We're kind of finishing out those last little bits of our science, or our tech tree, I should say. Although we have many years of research left in the queue, I think we've only got 2, maybe 3 nodes to add to that queue before the tech tree is completely farmed. And well, that'll be a that'll be an interesting day. We'll probably have to take a strategy and start trading in science for money or something like that. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We're probably still a couple of years out from that. Those nodes are pretty expensive. Anyway, for the flyby, here is Old Me. 3 minutes till our first radio in. Booyah. Let's move flight computer out of the way. Hey, look. Oh no, biological sample. Reset. Reset, 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 reset. Hey, here's something we don't got. 40 science. Let's bring out our science thing. Make sure we're not missing out on good stuff. Gravity scan. Did that add the science? I might have missed it. If only let you nickname things. That might actually be a very worthwhile mechanic. Alright, 20.1 kilometer. I'm very nervous. Oh, we don't have connection. Ruh-roh. Node in 3 minutes. Let's go ahead and just do stuff then. Biological sample, yeah, reset. What's our biome? The Midlands? Yeah. Does this raise or lower our periapsis, I wonder? Raises it. Good enough for me. Ooh. Well, here's hoping, Wook, 'cause I like it more when you're here. So it remove. Alright. Up to 20.63. God, I hope we're going to be alright. Unless that's like the one mountain on all of Io that we're just going to go careening into. Io's lowlands. We may have hit that one too. Awful storms yesterday. I want to visit Io and become radioactive. The good news is you might be radioactive well before you get there. Our altitude true. 118. 120. So there's about an 8-kilometer difference between our radar altitude and our SL altitude. This node must be kind of off because we're still falling rather quickly. I don't like that hill. That sounds terrifying. This is the biggest waste of fuel ever. Like huge, massive waste. No radioactive poo. Okay, the difference is a bit more than 10 kilometers now. In it to win it. 9 kilometers. I'll take it. 7. It's going to drop now, and I think we're in the clear. Can we radio some science in while we're like literally collecting dust particles? 9K off the deck, which means we really didn't have to correct. We only drove up about 3 kilometers, and yeah, now we're on our way out the door. Not bad. I'll take it. Space near Io. Doesn't look like we're going to get anything new on this run, but we did net 40 science from this, so alright. It was a mindfuck because it's so much sharp and bright detail another moon in the solar system has. True. And then there's this thing. Really all the interesting science that we're going to get in this flyby already collected. We can go ahead and switch to some sped up footage as we bid little Io a hey, is that it written on the surface? Okay, never mind. Well, yeah, there, it looks like it just says Io on Io. That's super interesting. Anyway, so we'll radio in what we've got and then wait until we hit the SOI change point. and then start plotting out our next set of maneuvers so that we can actually start to make the final steps in getting this little guy in orbit of its target. I think we just had to run through and check, 'cause I think a science experiment got saved and not transmitted back, but I think I was wrong on that regard. So I think our next bit of targeting is going to be for Callisto itself, although we're just trying to see if we get anything for free, and it does look like we do, but after many orbits, and if we can set this up correctly, it will be relatively cheap to make this flyby, although I think we can actually do better by making our propulsive correction along the other side. Currently we're looking at about 160, 170 some odd meters per second or so to make this correction, and KSP won't tell us how much delta V it would take to just go for orbit from there. So if we move this maneuver node over to the periapsis side and cycle it around until we get this free encounter, and then start to make our adjustments from there, we're looking at about 185 meters per second to have a very similar result. So there's just a lot more poking around, thinking maybe if we just make a very small altitude adjustment at our periapsis, and then maybe a less energetic maneuver would be needed later on in our periapsis to actually make this rendezvous be a thing. So we'll just keep poking around at nodes and see if we can't figure out what the best plan of action is for the future of this spacecraft. I mean, we do have lots of delta V, and I think if we can get captured into a low orbit on our transfer stage, I think we can handle the landing entirely on the back of the lander itself. We saw that at Ganymede, where we started our descent with the last couple of 100 meters per second left in the transfer / orbital correction stage, and then landed with just the fuel in the lander, and it was not a very efficient landing, but we still ended up with like 400 or 500 meters per second left in the tanks. That craft is actually still sitting on the surface. I just don't think it's actually close enough to a second biome to make a takeoff and landing approach worth destroying the vessel, but it is something we could look at in the future. So I think with a 153 meter per second correction dialed in, I think that's as cheap as we're going to see for some of these. We'll just go ahead and warp around. We've got about a day and some coin left before we make this very small correction, and this will set us up for another correction in the very distant future to make another flyby of Callisto a thing. I doubt we'll be shooting for orbital insertion off of that encounter. I think we're probably 2 or 3 more flybys away from it actually becoming a thing, but like I said, this is a game of being very patient, and so we will get this extra maneuver in the books, set ourselves up a alarm clock in Kerbal Alarm Clock to handle that, and come back to it much later. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate it, and I will see all of you in the next one. So until then, see you later.